And we need to stop being afraid to talk about value, price, coverage, whatever that may be, and educating our clients on the value of the independent agent or what we're doing for them. We need to talk about the coverage, and we need to not be afraid to have that price conversation.
But here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about this crazy thing called rate. I don't know if you've heard, Stephen. Insurance rates are going up.
Shut up. I thought it was an isolated incident only at that one specific agency.
I thought it was my husband's driving record personally, but
I don't know.
no, they tend to be increasing. And that means that we need to help our agencies with some strategies on how to handle these increasing rates.
I think there's two ways to think about it because some people have been proactive in having the conversations about rate with their clients already, but
Yeah.
now they're going into year 2 or 3
Or 6 or 7 or
or
8,
12.
depending on who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and so we have to kind of change the narrative a little because it can't be the same thing every time. And other
No,
people have never talked to their clients about it. They were just like, if I ignore it, it'll go away. Unfortunately, that is not working. So lots of great ways to have conversations about rate with your client. The best one being a proactive conversation with your client.
I said this to one of a new prospect agency the other day. And like I get a little feisty. Like if you hit my spot, right, I'm just like, ah. So I was like, here's the thing. You're gonna wish you had done this 3 years ago if you don't do it right now, because all the rates are going up. And the clients that I have that have followed our program run have a new business process so they can take in all these quotes without like a chicken with their head cut off. They can vet them, they can hit the hard ones, the ones that are the best for them, do a great job, quote over the phone, lock those down, and be a new business machine because they'll be shopping. They've been doing renewal review calls. So people are calling me like, hey, I saw the rates going up. I know the economy is changing. What's up? Versus you people keep raising my rates. And they're not scrambling with reshops and cutting your commissions. I go, they're organized, they're a machine. And so they're able to handle this diverse economic scenario. And he was like, "Right." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So I go, "And now is the time to do it. And you're gonna do it at the hardest time ever versus 2 or 3 years ago when you should have done it when things were calmer, but we'll deal with that later."
Hmm. I was doing a training the other day with a client and it was a team training.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, who has that obnoxious client that comes to the office every month? Always likes to pay in cash or take their time. They love to sit at your desk and eat all the candy. And they want to talk to you for 45 minutes to an hour.
Me.
And they have state minimum limits and they're not the best client for your profile.
Right.
And they all screamed out some guy's name. And I was like, oh, shut up. They like literally everybody in the
Oh,
office
it's
knows
a
this
one
person.
client, like
Right.
everybody knows in the agency. Yeah.
And I was
That's
like,
a
what
big
if
one.
we spent that 45 minutes dealing with clients that never heard from us and building relationships? So when things happened, and they were like, what? I'm like, wouldn't it be funner to talk to somebody who wasn't expecting our call that we could be proactive with versus the person that comes to sit at our desk every day?
Like I was at an agency last week too where they purchased some agencies and some of the previous agency owners were in there and they were selling, well, my clients, my like
My favorite,
no,
my
you sold your clients. So you're
client.
an employee of someone else's clients. And they all, understand in this town, everybody wants to come and pay their bills. I go, they want to. I go, it is 25 senior citizens who come in once a month when they're doing their errands to pay their bills. It is not all of your clients. In fact, the vast majority of them are an EFT or pay in full. So we're going to go ahead and do this. Like, well, we can't take that away. Oh, and somebody had to be at the front desk. Like if that person was at lunch, somebody else had to sit up there. If that person was on vacation, somebody else had to sit up there. It was like you couldn't just put a sign like or a bell or a ding. Like, no, no, no. That's terrible customer service. But apparently automatically reshopping everyone who goes up $53 is great customer service. I was like, I kept my mouth shut so hard. But anyhow, the idea today is how do we communicate rate to clients? And so I also think that there's twofold to this, right? There's getting education out into the marketplace. I think agencies are missing the mark on this because I think they could be on community podcasts talking about it. I think they could be in the community Facebook channels with blogs sharing, like, hey, your homeowners rates have gone up. Here's the reasons why. I
Yeah.
think they could be out, sending emails to their clients. The economy is changing. Here's things you need to be aware of. Is your deductible too high or too low? Do you have enough replacement costs? Is your contents up to date? Would you like to look at other payment options? Do you like a review? And I think we are so scared in this industry by the vast majority of rate that we think that, and I'm curious what you think. I see so many agencies that get so tripped up thinking about social media posts or blogs or emails, not just the art of doing it, which you have to get used to because we're in 2023. The number
Mhm.
one way we generate business is by what we're doing right now, so that you hear it. Your customer, you could do the same thing in your communities, but like because they're so scared that if they email 100 people, one person is going to cancel. We forget about the 25 people who then called and didn't go shopping around. And so
Right.
we just do nothing. Nothing, Steve.
Nothing.
Nothing. And I just struggled as a business owner. Like, how are you not taking a very difficult marketplace and strategizing it with your team? And how does it happen?
Well, I think that it's kind of two different mentalities, right? I can go to Walmart and get a pair of shoes for $20.
Oh,
They're gonna protect my feet and get me where I need to go.
we call
I can
that adventure shopping on the road. Like when I'm
Mhm.
trapped or
Yeah.
something
Or
happens and I
or
forget like a
something
whole
happens to
outfit.
something, yeah.
And it's always in like a small town where all there is Walmart. I'm like, ooh,
So, with this, how we have to look at our client experience is that they kind of just get what they want, self checkout, and run out the door, so they don't have to show their receipt to the person checking receipt? Or is it where we go to the designer store, the upscale store where they're going to take the time to talk about the product and educate you on the quality of the leather and how good the fit is and why this is the right fit for you, and then walk you to the register, check you out, walk you to the door, and thank you for your business
and give you the bag around
and give you the bag around the counter. Yes, it's those two different it's kind of those two
It's
different
true.
theories, right?
It's true. You're
So
so
if we're
right.
educating our client on what the value of the agency is and what coverages they have,
Yeah.
it goes a long way in keeping them from reshopping.
I also think too, like, you can't hide from the rates. The rates are the rates. You didn't control them. You didn't create them. You're not even responsible for them. You're there. Your job as the middle person is to educate your client and guide them in the best direction possible. So when we don't do that, because we're hiding from rate, I just get really scared. And I think people hide from this for two reasons. One, maybe they're not well versed in marketing to get that messaging out, which is can be overwhelming. Like if you've never written a blog, maybe your first one shouldn't be on rates increasing, right? If you've never emailed your clients, it's like, so we have to do all these things. But I think we overthink that stuff, everybody. I'm gonna something is better than nothing.
Yes.
An agency that you were just with me at, they started their renewal reviews and commercial lines. They're going to take their C accounts and send them an email saying, we'd love to do a review, book a time. So they were a little behind schedule. So they just sent it all out for like the month of March, like all the C's. They had a 41% contact ratio.
That's insane.
And it was like the same day, right? So it was like, oh my
Right.
God, all these people are calling. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, hold on. Like, it is because like there was, the idea was like, let's just get it out, let's see it. Maybe that was a great decision, maybe it wasn't. I don't know in retrospect what would have happened differently, but and then like one person cancels and it's like a monoline flood policy, and I'm like, we didn't lose anything. Like maybe you could have gotten the other policies, but if you couldn't, they just took that monoline flood to their other agency who had everything, and you don't have to manually renew it and get payment and everything else every year. We're all good. But I say that to say, I think we have to be okay with having that conversation. And the other half I see with agencies is I think there's a lot of fear that their team doesn't know how to have that conversation. So
Right.
doing nothing feels better than, okay, I do this and they call and my team, is too busy or they fall apart or they don't know what to say. And then it makes things worse. And I say, we're still operating in that fear mentality as opposed to an abundance mentality. And I think like we have so many resources, Stephen, that if you're a smaller agency and you just want scripts, we have them on our website. You can get our school that has a whole how to limit remarketing and handle rate course for $295 a month. You can work with us directly if your team is bigger and needs more role playing and all that juicy stuff that nobody likes to do. And I'm just like, in this marketplace, as a leader, you need to be setting that strategy and supplying your team with the tools and resources to do it. And that goes into how do we communicate right?
Absolutely.
And maybe you could share too a little bit when you were like leading the troops at Cross, how, maybe how you would handle this marketplace, right? Because you guys went through a lot with credit scoring in Washington.
We
And I
had
always felt
credit
like
in, credit out, credit in, credit
yeah,
out.
credit in, rate increase, rate decrease. But you guys always like maybe even talk about like how you communicated the team, right? Because I get
Right.
the sense that the staff members, the frontline team members are like craving direction and guidance too.
Well, even on a couple of the calls I've done recently, or the trainings I've done recently, I'm like, what if we empowered you to get rid of your worst client, but you had to retain your best client?
Yep.
The client that had 4 policies, you got to keep at all costs. You
Yeah.
can get rid of the one that calls every 3 months for a new policy because they canceled. And they their eyes open and they're like, "What?" I'm like, who would you rather talk to?" And they're like, "Ooh, ooh, I want to talk to the fun one with 4 policies that's low maintenance." And it's like, okay, well, we need to have a relationship with them so they don't leave. And if we maintain them, we can keep them. We can get rid of the low hanging fruit that is not our ideal client.
Right.
But I think just having the conversations we had a lot of success with having conversations about what we were successful in saving or talking through the rate. So whenever somebody would find out something new about a carrier, like, oh my goodness, carrier X is planning a 20% average rate increase, we would send that to the team and we'd have a meeting and we'd talk about it. What does that look like? And we know that that means half the people are going to be 2% and half of them are going to be 40% and the average will be 20, right? It's never whatever. But
Right.
we have to talk through that with the client and let them know that even though it's a 17% increase, it's still amazing and below average.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think too, we stress this a lot. Sometimes people ask a question, why did my rate go up? It didn't say fix my rate. They just said why.
Hmm.
And again, this goes into that whole concept. If you were doing the things that we talked about 3 years ago, those relationships are so much deeper and stronger. And so it's like, you can't only do it as a knee jerk reaction. When you're doing it as a knee jerk reaction, you're always going to scramble and it's going to be a problem. And so I just always really encourage people to think like proactively. Proactive is always better than reactive. Even if there's like a little fallout, there's fallout on both sides. So, one you think like, oh, I called them, so they left. Well, you could have stopped 10 other people who were shopping from going, and you don't know. But this is where your values have to come into play. And you say, like, what kind of customer experience I want? I want insurance agencies to think of themselves as relationship builders first and insurance agents second. Because you don't sell anything, you're not in control of the product. You can only control the experience. And so if you deliver the best experience and you obsess over that experience, you train your team how to love people and create that like, hey, insurance doesn't have to be horrible. But that reactive model is just, I don't know what I'm paying them for.
Right. So we have to
And
provide a great experience. We can explain the value of the coverage or customize the coverage to and explain what we're doing to the client. And so just saying, here's a quote, sign it. It saved you $10. I think it also gets into that bad dog getting a treat mentality, as I like to call it. Like,
right,
oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I just ran around. I did 27 quotes today and I saved somebody $3 a month. Do I
three
get a
cool
reward? Do I
dollars
get a
a month.
reward? Do I get a reward? And so you start like throwing bones to the dog who's doing bad things. Then
Right.
the client becomes the bad dog, and the client starts expecting that every time their rate changes, you're going to go to bat and go find something that's going to be cheaper. And
I
that's
know.
not
And then
necessarily
it's
a
that
reality.
value prop, right? Like,
No, think of all the quotes you're doing. Like you're doing 30 quotes to get a hold of 10 people, of which you move one or two.
I know. I just keep going back to like, if you as the owner are not comfortable with rate increases, there's no way your team is going to be, right? Like this is
Right.
part of market conditions. Um, that market conditions are indicating that we're going up in price. And so we have to set our strategy. And that means when you set a strategy, it's what do I say yes to? What do I say no to? Right. And I'd much rather help a person with 4 policies than to go chase my brother who's squawking at you that's been in cancellation twice this year. Like, sorry, bro. like,
Right.
like go call my competition, drive them nuts because they don't have a new business process and they're just quoting anybody who calls in.
Well,
They can go take care of you. We're gonna keep focusing on the right core business for us. And I think now is really the time for agencies to score their book. And I know that can be controversial. I think now is really the time for agencies to also say, like, we have different tiers of service based on who you are. And that might feel
right.
discriminatory. Like, I know in some small towns, it's like, we want to give good service to everybody. I think as long as they're a client of yours, they should get good service.
Right.
But when my flight tonight is canceled to Memphis and I fly Delta 90% of the time and I fly a couple times a week, I get that flight out tomorrow first.
Hmm.
I think that we have to stop trying to be everything to everybody all the time. Like our doors are not wide open to everybody to say, come on aboard. Like we may have to start thinking truly about who we can invest our time into.
Well, and I love to sound like the broken record when I say we only talk to our clients about once every 2.6 years.
Right.
Meaning that there's a client that calls in every month, so that's 12 times in 1 year, and the client we haven't talked to in 10 years.
Right.
Which one would we rather build the relationship with? The one that's a little less maintenance, that has a better return, that is a solid account, that we want them to call us when they see something or have a question or concern? Or the customer that's going to call us regardless and they don't care and they just waste time and suck our energy?
Hmm.
And, obviously there's different types of agencies for different reasons, but we need to get to the bottom of what is our agency culture, build that service experience, and then market to that kind of client and maintain the best client that's the best fit for our agency. And we need to stop being afraid to talk about value, price, coverage, whatever that may be, and educating our clients on the value of the independent agent or what we're doing for them. We need to talk about the coverage, and we need to not be afraid to have that price conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't stress it enough. You have to role play this out with your team. Like we just did a round 2 renewal call, and the agency was just a little sensitive about using the word sales and cross sales. Like the team was that was not their wheelhouse just yet. But they're getting stronger, right? So I'm okay with that. Like they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And at the end they were like, gosh, it's so good. Like, hey, as we were talking it out, like it just comes out of Kelly's mouth. And I go, it comes out of my mouth this way after 20 years of practice and listening to
Yeah.
my unrecorded phone calls. And it's like it's something I did, but I also challenged myself to get really good at it. It wasn't going to be able to just be like I didn't have garlic like a vampire was going to stay away from me. Like great's going to happen. And so let's just end with this, right? So role playing, because I know this is something like if you look at our freaking Google stats, there's this, and I don't know. I have a lot of questions as why so much traffic comes to this
As
one
soon
blog.
as Googling these keywords.
And it's like role playing isn't just when your insurance consultant is in town. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like it's got like thousands of hits every month. And I'm like I just my mind role playing could go into a professional mode or a non or it is sometimes
Mm,
people's professions. I mean
right?
I'm not gonna judge. You do you. Um, but there's all these hits on it. And I'm like, I think people like, the second you get into the room with role playing, people are like, I don't want to do it. They give you all this objections. And I was like, you know what? And I always say, like, so have you role played ever? No. Okay.
It's scary.
Let's do it the first time and see how it goes, right? And maybe you're the agent and they're the worst customer. Like there's ways to desensitize people to it because you believe in the value. Like as we shoot this, the Super Bowl is coming up. We say, do you not think the Super Bowl teams are practicing against the B squad? Do you not think that they're watching tape? No, they're getting better and better and better. And that's a version of role playing.
Right.
So if you want to master how to be more confident having the right conversation, your best bet is to get in and role play every day until you build that confidence. I swear to you, at the end of a week, you'll have more confidence. At the end of 2 weeks, you'll be a master. At the end of 3 weeks, you'll be a freaking ninja.
Mm-hmm. They're having success with conversations with clients. You become desensitized to the ones that get a little snarky or a little more intense because you're like,
Mhm.
I got this. I won this 7 times last week. This one's not going to get me down.
I think that's a really good point because I think when they get flustered, i.e., the phone call I sent out to everybody this morning. I don't know if you have a chance to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't about rate, but it was just the woman just was. So it's funny. The insurance agents looked at it like, well, she was absolutely, the agent was absolutely right. The person's married and this, that, and next thing. I go, they started off the call completely wrong. The woman goes, oh, is so and so there? No, the book's been redistributed and they no longer have you as a client.
And we don't know who your new person's
Yeah.
gonna be yet.
And she was like, "Oh, well, this has happened a couple times." And it's like, yeah. Like
And
there
I've
was
been there
like
for 20 years, and I would just really like to know who I'm going to talk to next time I call. Do it. I don't know.
and then it was like someone was going through a divorce. Like it was a sensitive situation. And like there was no caring tone. There was interrupting everybody. The way she was technically correct, but emotionally deficient.
Yes, extremely technical in the call, and the client's like, I'm not a rude person, so I
She
don't
said nothing.
appreciate your tone, but I am extremely frustrated right now at this situation and the way you're trying to explain it to me. And I was like, oh snap! I want to be that customer right now.
Yeah. And I was just like, technically correct. emotionally insufficient, right? This is like the whole thing we
Mhm.
have in a lot of agencies where it's like the insurance encyclopedia, yet an a-hole to everybody that walks into their office, including the staff and the owner. It's
Mhm.
like one without the other doesn't quite work. So I know we got to wrap it up. So I want everybody to be encouraged. We have a whole course on how to handle rape. You can get it in our online school. You should totally check it out. Your team needs training and resources. So check it out in the blog notes, check it out in the podcast notes, check it out in the YouTube notes. Call us, text us, chat us, holler at us, social medias, DM us. But don't go and do this alone when, for a small investment, even in our online school, you could make this all happen.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Diva, for helping me talk about how to communicate rape.
Thank you, Kelly.